Well, it's Thursday. We're getting to about the halfway portion of the month. Thanksgiving is not that far away. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that. I really can't believe I'm saying that. Christmas is just around the corner. The end of the year is coming. As far as the anime and manga seasons are going, we're coming to the end of the fall season, even though we're well underway on it. And I'm trying to catch up. I just finished. I'm up to date on Campfire Cooking. That one it has been pretty good onto there. Others, Spy X Family, and others, I'm still trying to work with on there. As you know, as we've gotten to be a busier work week for us now, especially now that we have a live show on Mondays. If you haven't caught that yet, Man Cafe live every Monday, 8 p.m. right on X, YouTube, and on Rumble as well. Staying within the pattern on that. Welcome to another edition of Otaku Thursday, your go-to information center for your favorite anime and manga. We talk about what is going on in the industry, things that we like, dislike, things that you might like, dislike, all that around. Don't forget to drop a comment on this channel, like, share, and hit that subscribe button. We're well over 1,400 subscribers right here on YouTube. We're getting close to 200 on Rumble. And then, of course, we're almost 200 on X on our Man with the Show site on itself, where most of our live feeds are hitting to these days. But I tell you, there's a lot going on. And I tell you, things are changing rapidly by the day when it comes to the anime and manga world. We're still fighting the censorship game. We're dealing with, many different countries, including the United States. SB 20 is still in effect in Texas right now. There is talk of already challenging this rule under another guise of another rule that was put out there. So, there's many things that are trying to put a damper to stop these regulations that use things like, we need to protect the children, we need to protect women, we need to protect people from human trafficking. But all of it's a lie. It's a lie to the general public. For the reason is, all of this has been used to corral the internet. We already see this in places like the United Kingdom. They're basically, you have a company like Ofcom, who's been given all this power to go after everyone in their country, and even try to go after us here in the United States, which that will never happen. There are those who will try their best to come after us because they don't like the things we say. They don't like the things that we enjoy, the entertainment we enjoy. They have a problem with cartoons made for adults. They classify it as pornography. But it isn't pornography. It's to that point. There's tons of anime out there. There's something for everyone. And I've said this a lot on many of our shows on Man Cafe. We said this on Man with the Show. Just like what I just said before earlier, Campfire Cooking in another world with my absurd power. This is a show about cooking and fantasy adventure. There's no fan service or nudity or anything to that nature. It's a nice, basic, wholesome adventure to the point, and you might learn something from cooking on there. Now, obviously, we don't have any orcs to cook up, but yet you can change that with any pork or beef meat that we have in our world and use the kind of seasons that they do. You might cook up something really nice. And of course the sports, to that situation, the romances, and we're not talking romances that would have sex in it. We're talking the standard innocent romance on there. There are many types. And there are various others. Even for the gay community, there are those, and those are popular with women. Period. Has been for quite some time now. But moving on just a little bit, a couple things that are out there right now going on. We're hearing now, because with the popularity of Demon Slayer, Chainsaw Man, and Jujutsu Kaisen the movie, we're going to be expecting a Solo Leveling movie project coming soon. Not a live action, even though there is a live action going to be. Netflix is going to be working on that as well, but there was going to be an animated one. Because right now, you could talk about the box office as far as right now who's making the best money. And right now, it is a split between horror and anime. Yeah, that's right. Horror and anime right now are basically making money in the box office, wherever you are in the world. For the reason is, these are low-budget films. They don't cost much, easy to produce, and they're able to get them out, at a decent rate. And and a lot of this is the popularity. We were talking about this on Man Cafe this week, me and Death Angel Shadows, that these anime movies, these horror films, these science fiction movies, it is you have to make them for the fan base, to the point. You can't go and say, well, we want the masses to come in and watch it. We're going to make it for the masses. You can't do it with these genres. It's almost impossible. Every once in a while, you might come across something that, works well with the masses, but you can't think on that with every subject matter that you could think of. You have to think it to the point on who's going to come to watch this movie. Plain and simple. You got to go back to that thought pattern. And once you get to that, and you understand that, if you're making a science fiction movie, say a Star Trek or Star Wars, you're not going to get a person that doesn't like science fiction to come see that, even though you try to advertise it to them. No, you want to be able to say, we've made this movie for the fans. Don't leave the fans out of it, because they're the ones who line up day in, day out to come to see these movies. And it includes the anime industry. Includes the horror industry. There was a time and place back when I was young. We would stand online for hours. We stood online for hours to see Star Wars. We stood online for hours to see Star Trek. We stood on lines to see Indiana Jones movies. We did this back in the day. Do we see that today? No, we don't. We don't really see that, other than the really popular stuff, including anime, which is the fan-driven movies. Hollywood needs to step back, stop looking for the big blockbuster film. You've done what you can with the blockbuster. You made your money. Step back, change your pattern, and move on to something else. Start looking at the low budgets, at stuff that basically people will enjoy. This is, one of the reasons why, and I'll tell you this, Taylor Sheridan from Paramount, that does very well, from, the man who created Yellowstone, Tulsa King, is because he's telling good stories. He stays away from the media to talk about politics and all that. He just creates what he can. Now he has his own studio in Texas, if I got this right this time, in Texas, and he's planning to expand. He's got a lot of shows coming. He's got a spinoff from Tulsa King, which this weekend, I believe Samuel Jackson is making his appearance to begin to introduce the spinoff. But also Hollywood is making their move eastward. We have studios opening up here in the tri-state area. We have companies like Netflix, Lionsgate, Paramount with the help of Studio 1888, and various others that are moving into this area to produce quality programming. And meanwhile, overseas in Japan, they're beginning to expand. I mean, you have Toho, who's also in accordance with J Kids in the U.S., trying to expand further. Konesha is building a facility studio here in the U.S. To make manga movies, live action ones as well. And you have many others that are just starting to look at the perspective that we're going to make stuff for the West, but understand this is our culture, this is our programming, this is our movies, this is our, what we create. You have no jurisdiction over them. And we're hoping we're going to start seeing that some of these companies are going to start doing English dubs in-house at that point, putting a damper on Crunchyroll and many others here in the U.S. But getting back to the box office a bit, right now, this is Thursday, 13th of November. Tomorrow, in the country of China, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle opens. Now, currently, at the time of this recording, which was about a couple of days prior, the last numbers I got for pre-sales in China, somewhere around 18.4 million. That's in U.S. dollars. Basically for pre-sales of ticketing in China for this. It is becoming a record-breaking in China. This will be one of the only ones that have ever, as far as a movie anime that's made outside China, that basically it will have high numbers. This has already surpassed pre-ticket sales from Avatar 2, which was around 17 million. Probably by the time this video airs, of course, this Thursday, will probably be well over 20. And of course, we expect Demon Slayer to break the $1 billion mark. First time for a anime movie. I mean, Mugen Train did pretty well, but already Infinity Castle has surpassed it. And still, there's 2 more parts to this movie that still hasn't been released yet, which we expect it to be, I think the closest will be 2027 and 2029 for the finale. And supposedly, the Crunchyroll is pulling back that originally they were not going to be airing this movie on their service. Then they said, "Yeah, we're going to do it." And then they said, well, "No, we're not going to. We still need to get a full confirmation." But I think if once it does very well in China, and we get through the holidays and the final tally numbers for 2025 comes out, and that'd be in late January, February. We'll see where we stand financially at the box office. Even though I don't think this is going to be the best year for the box office itself. A lot of people say, well, we're probably either going to break even or basically we'll be well below the numbers generally. But this, like I say, this year has been driven. You've had about maybe 1, 2 or 3 movies, blockbusters that have done well for itself. But the rest of the entire movie season, from the beginning of the year till now, has been driven by horror and anime. It's shocking. It is shocking to that point. But like I said, it's cheap to make, easy to produce, and you have a fan structure out there that will beat down your door. Even if the film, like for example in the horror genre, even if the horror genre is not that great of a film, people will still go see it. But we'll bring the final tallies the first tallies for the China Infinity Castle box office next week. So stay tuned for that. We'll probably talk a little bit of that on My Man Cafe on Monday. Now, moving on just a little bit further. Some sad news to the point, for anime fans out there. As far as right now, we only got about 5 episodes. Think about this. We only have 5 episodes left of My Hero Academia. This series started in 2016, and it's finally coming to an end on December 13th. Even though we have a spinoff already, the Vigilantes, which we're getting a second season to that. That's coming soon. But this one's going to be a hard one to say goodbye to. I mean, it has been very popular. I mean, this has done better than Marvel. Think about that for a minute. And it's had several movies. And it has for superhero characters in a long time. And this is why I say it's a lot better right now than Marvel or DC. Is they've created some good superheroes and villains. Stuff out of the box you wouldn't even think of putting together. A school for superheroes. I mean, you probably, we've heard about it, Sky High and, some of the others that, they've put together on there. But nothing of this quality. Always remember that. The quality of this show has been great since the very beginning. Yeah, there is a center section of this series. I think it's around season 3 or 4. That was a little slow. It was a little slow in the manga, but they were able to up the ante from the manga version into the live to the anime version of this. Now, we are expecting a live action from Netflix also. This is another one that Netflix will be tagging as a live action, and we'll see how they do with it. I mean, this and Solo Leveling, I think, are the 2 hardest to put on a live action screen. It is possible, but, financially, you got to be careful with your budgets on this. Because when you look to this and you say, well, yeah, let's try to make a live action of it. And, you can do that, but you got to look at the mistakes that have been made in the past. There was a X-Men series where it's like all the younger characters of the X-Men series that Fox tried to do, and it was pretty darn awful. To that point. And, it has been tried again, with, Marvel, with DC. They just can't get it right. They allow the politics, the activism into this, and not the artistic expression that you do in what's made, what a superhero is. Going all the way back to the early days of the 40s, 50s, 60s. I grew up, Batman the 60s series, is Superman, the animated cartoons, and the years after that. Some great stuff from both Marvel and DC. I grew up with the comic books. I used to go to Forbidden Planet, weekly. I would go, actually twice a week. I would go on the standard release date, which was like the Tuesday or Wednesday, and then I'd go back on the weekend. But at that time period, anime was building up. The VHS era was well into effect. They were a little expensive to buy at that time period. But also, you had the bootlegs as well. Some great films. Some really good films. Some great, anime series on there. Some of it not made for kids. Understandably, some of them beautifully done. I mean, if you and I say to this, if you're new to this and don't understand where to start, because you got some great stuff that's being released. I mean, you have Angel's Egg that's coming out very soon. It's going theatrical, and then I think it's toward the end of the year or early next year. We're going to get the 4K restoration version on Blu-ray. The one to look for, you can see it on Crunchyroll, but I recommend go out and buy it. This should be in your inventory besides Angel Egg. is the anthology Robot Carnival. Robot Carnival, back in the days, Streamline Pictures had put this on Sci-Fi Channel. This happened to be one of the ones that ended up on Sci-Fi Channel in the early days. And you have directors like Hiroki Kitsuzuma, who's responsible for Zeta Gunman. Katsuhiro Otomoto, which he, basically creator of Akira. Konji Miyamoto, who has worked on City Hunter, Kiki's Delivery Service, Fist of the North Star. Also, he's worked on The Animatrix. And many others who have worked at, some of the best in the anime industry, the godfathers of anime. And these are multiple stories. It's very well done. I love the opening and ending segments on this. It's a lot of fun. The Robot Carnival itself. But the stories in between these, it's, Franken Gears, Deprive, Presence, Starlight Angel, Cloud. Cloud is beautiful. Strange Tales of Mijani Machine Culture, Western Invasion, and Chicken Man and Redneck. And, each one of these stories are very well done, well produced, well animated. The music score behind it is excellent. This is one you should always have in your collection. And those of you just starting out, wondering why this is so popular and why some people consider it an art form, watch this. And it's not, this is, and I'll tell you this for straight out. There's nothing pornographic about this anthology. Nothing. As many of those who have pushed that say that anime is pornographic, no. Watch this anthology, and you'll understand why anime is popular with a certain group of people. In fact, I'm still adding to my collection, and I've just added this. I can't believe I waited about 2 weeks for this. If you've been a watcher or listener to my programming here, we talked about Shout Studios, that they were merging with FilmRise to create a bigger company. Now, a lot of people were confused. What are they going to do with the Shout store? Well, supposedly they've merged it with Groove.com, which is, I believe, Universal owns that company. Now, prior to the announcement on there, and before I got the announcement, I had it placed in order. And the thing about it is, some of this stuff was hard to get because either one or two were on back order on other sites like Amazon and Walmart. It was hard to get on this particular one particular storyline. The series, it's Neon Genesis Evangelion. We've discussed this before. One of the best anime series of all time. Story type, artistic type. Like I said, talking about Robot Carnival. This is another one that's very artistic driven. Great concept. Great story. It has some controversies on it, but there is a reason for that because of the story itself. Now, what I had on order was the entire series and the 1.11, 2.22, and the 3.0 plus 1111. Now, you might say to yourself, wait a minute, wasn't there like 2 other movies before this? I said, yes, there were. Now, the best part is with the Neon Genesis Complete series is that you got the additional 2 movies, which was Life After Death. I think it's Life After Death. They're like the continuation of the story itself from the ending that basically, it'll confuse you on that ending. But they continued it on 2 other movies, which those 2 movies were made into 3 other films by the same person. But now they're in my collection. In fact, I haven't unwrapped them yet. But yeah, it did take me 2 weeks. Now, don't worry, folks. You're saying like, why it took so long? I said, well, unfortunately, people panicked when they heard that Shout was basically going away, not realizing that they were just merging and becoming a bigger company. And Shout was starting to purge some of its inventory to move into the store into Groove.com. So there was some good sales on there, and it kind of overloaded their systems. I know wait time was between 5 to 15 business days. I mean, I was like well over a week, and I had not heard anything from them. When I contacted them, they said, yeah, it's going to take about 5 to 15 business days. I got to about, what was it, the 10th or 11th business day, and they said it was on its way. So I finally got it. I'm happy. I did spend some money on this. I spent over $100 for the entire four packages on here, and it's well worth it. So if you get a chance, head over to gruv.com. They did not pay me for this or anything like that, but do check them out and see if you can get a great sale on that. So we got 2 stories before we end this today. One of them, actually both of them, we had these were a bit back, not too far back. And I'll tell you this is why I keep continuing that there is a problem around the world when it comes to anime and manga content. There are those out there that don't like, like I said, they try to call it pornography. They try to basically demoralize it because of some of the content that basically it represents. The isekai, the fan service, the hentai, so on and so on and so on. Now, in Russia happens to be one of the countries that has basically tried to ban anime and manga. We've seen this before, that, movies, series like, Death Note has been banned from the country because supposedly someone self-deleted themselves. And the thing they found is that they were a fan of this series. And because the guy was wearing a suit when he self-deleted, they blamed it on the animated series. Which, this is the thing that happens. Taking it from an overall view. We've seen this in history, and we've discussed this on Man with the Show. We've seen Senate subcommittee hearings. We've seen trials have happened where music, television, movies, video games has been ostracized by the government, by those Puritans that says that, it's detrimental to children, that it causes violence and basically self-deletion. But the thing about it is, all of it really doesn't exist. It's a phantom thing. Why I say this? Because many psychologists have come forward. There have been many studies done here and abroad that have said, no, this does not push violence. This doesn't push sex abuse. This doesn't push self-deletion. You make the choices yourself of what you do with your life, how you deal with it. People have mental issues. Yes, mental health issues, and they need help. Right now, the youth of America is suffering through this for quite some time now. And you see it in the news all the time, that they're being brainwashed in the school systems, especially at the college level. That's why I've said, if you want to have a great career, you want to be, have a good education. 1, self-educate yourself. 2, hit trade school. Believe me, it's worth the money to spend to go to trade school, because you will um, find a way of making money by working with your hands. Because there are those out there that are taking classes and basically trying to get degrees on things that basically there's no jobs out there for it. But in the other case, in trade school, there's plenty of jobs available. There's always a need for a good plumber. There's always a need for a good electrician. There's a good need for a good contractor. Why? Because we're always needing things to be fixed or things to be built. But getting back to this, and this is an article that came out back in October, about late October. Fortunately, we just haven't gotten a chance to get to this story. So many things have come forward. This is out of the Moscow Times. Russia blocks world's largest anime and manga database over LGBT TQ plus content. I say LGB these days myself. Russian authorities have banned the world's largest anime and manga platform, My Anime List, over extremist LGBT content, the state media reported. Federal media watchdog Roskomnadzor placed My Anime List into its national blacklist of sites banned in Russia. Without citing formal reason, Russia uses the template to access the site, now receiving an error message. My Anime List is a global online platform dedicated to Japanese animation and comics with around 20 million users. Roskomnadzor cited systematic placement of materials containing information, propaganda, non-traditional sexual relations, and preferences for its decision in comments of state-run news agency RIA Novosti. Roskomnadzor said the ban could be reversed if the Tokyo-based platforms removes the content deemed unlawful in Russia. Russia has previously banned several anime titles. In 2021, a St. Petersburg's court prohibited online distribution of titles including Death Note, Tokyo Ghoul, Inuyasha, citing concerns that the teens were reenacting violent scenes from the cartoons. The government has for years pursued measures against LGBT expression under gay propaganda laws that first passed in 2013 and were expanded in the years since. In late 2023, Russia Supreme Court issued a landmark ruling declaring the so-called International LGBT Public Movement to be an extremist organization. In a way, that is partially true. Why? For the reason is there are those radical within the LGBT community that are, the T end of it and the Q end have literally taken over the movement itself. Why? Why have they? Because they're very radical to the situation. So radical that the rest of the LGBT community are starting to realign itself and create a new organization against this main one itself. We've seen this already online on several different sites, that there are groups of people from the gay community that have banded together to create a new activist group that are basically showing what is the problem with their own group itself. Obviously, this has been happening with every activist group you could think of. You go down the list onto there that, they try to help their minority group, but then you get those in there that have become very radicalized and take over and become, a more detrimental to their own community to that standard. But, Russia has been they've been overgeneralizing themselves when it comes to anime and manga, that they just literally just putting the blame on their own internal problems on, stories. That's what they're doing. Now, you might want to say, well, it's basically the old communism, socialism. Yeah, that is part of it. But the other half is what's been happening around the world. You have those who will do everything possible to try to censor this content, this entertainment. It's from the control board, books of Marxism, Nazis, straight on cross the board. But you have like Japan that's starting to fight back. And, considering that this next article from Automation that we have here, no interference in creative works, Japanese government proposes new policy for anime and game expansion west. This is what's going on over in Japan right now. You have those in government now. Now we have a new prime minister, a woman that will basically put this into play. You have other politicians that basically want to protect anime, manga, and gaming across the board, anything that comes out of Japan. But we're going to read this a little bit on itself. The Japanese Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry held its 8th Entertainment Creative Industry Policy Seminar. This was back in October, during which it proposed the 5 key principles of its new policy guidelines for the Japanese industry, including video games, anime, and manga, film, and music. As reported by Otaku Soken, the overseas market size for domestic content to 20 trillion yen by 2033. This comes only a month after the Japanese Business Federation, Keigaden, issued an urgent message calling the government to provide immediate large-scale and long-term support for the country's content industry. You have to remember, they do a lot of animation work. They do a lot of, book work, manga onto there in Japan. A lot more than what Marvel, DC, and a lot of the animators on this side of the world does versus what happens in Japan. Reading on, the 5 key principles of entertainment creative industry policies are listed below. 1. Large-scale, long-term strategic support. 2. Support of efforts to spread Japanese-made content to the world. 3. No interference in the content of creating works. 4. Providing direct support. 5. Prioritizing those willing to take a challenge. That's always been a situation when you're doing artistic expression, taking on a challenge. This is why we're reading this right now, so at least you understand. Right now Japan is willing to fight for its creative rights out there. We don't need companies like Visa, MasterCard, and payment processors to say, you can't sell this because basically it's lewd, it's offensive. Lewd and offensive by who? You? You're the arbiter of what's good and bad? Looking back at the bad things that you have done? As far as the way some of the money that you've collected from, organizations that are, a little bit bent-nosed. And those highlighted in human and child trafficking? Shall we go into that direction? See, the thing is that you always have someone in these companies that just basically, this is what we have to do. No, it's not what you have to do. Leave it alone. It's never hurt anybody. As much as you think that it does, it doesn't. Stop listening to other activists that say we need to get rid of this. That's the first thing always when it comes down to socialism, when it comes down to, the Nazis and stuff like that. When you know that something like this is going to happen, is the first thing they say, we need to burn the books. We need to get rid of certain entertainment. When they start to point out certain things that need to go away, that is a problem within itself. That's when you should fight against it. Continuing on, in the light of recent events, especially aggressive content restrictions on global pressure from payment processor firms, the third principle of policy has been attracting attention in particular. As explained by Mehdi, the government's goal is to invest in IP, human resource, and digital technologies, as well as supporting international distribution networks and overseas investment into building fandoms. Consequently, the third principle was suggested to reassure creators and their freedom of expressions will be protected, and that the government backing does not imply that the content of their works will be meddled in any way. Furthermore, the clause 4 of the policy proposed suggests that there will be no more transparency behind the support process, meaning less reliance on intermediate companies and more support directly reaching those involved in the creation and popularization of the content. As for the reasons behind the new policy proposal, Mehdi cites meager results in its efforts to expand the overseas market size for domestic produced content. While some of the measures didn't show results, Mehdi suggested they were still at a low level comparing to other countries like South Korea. The ministry commented that they were able to expand the stock of tangible, intangible intangible assets and raise the labor productivity and wages to a satisfactory level, and are hoping that the new policies helps Japan produce content conquer the world. See, this is where we're at right now. That you have other countries out there like Japan that will sit there with their politicians and create a way of protecting the product itself, protecting the IPs that are created in their own country. And that's the way it should be. We do it here, but not as of late. As of late, you've gotten a lot of politics stepping in to where it shouldn't be. And we get into the next level where the government says, that's it. You guys are not going to hassle us anymore. That's it. We're done. We're going to create our own payment processors. We're going to create our own sites that are going to handle this. We're going to handle our own translations. We're going, as far as the process of distribution, we're going to handle it ourselves. Stop using middlemen like Crunchyroll. Yeah, it's probably going to be an issue with Crunchyroll, and it's going to be an issue with a couple of other sites, Netflix and all that. They'll have to renegotiate a lot of their contracts. Whereas you'll probably see companies like Crunchyroll will be more of a distributor of the product itself as far as streaming than helping in the production end of it, dubbing it into English, re-editing, and of course transferring it for physical media distribution. Because always remember, all of this entertainment is art, and it will always be fought for. There are going to be those that are always fight for the right for you to see their content. It's a major thing. Our Constitution, freedom of expression that we have on there. But people are starting to try to twist that to their nature and saying, well, not all things are freedom of speech. Well, if you pushed violence to the situation, yes, that's not freedom of speech. But if you have stuff that's anime, hentai, pornographic, it has a space in our universe. If you do not like it, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to watch it at all. But don't take away the rights from someone else, not allowing them to watch it. And that's the big issue these days. So let me know in the comments below. Tell me your thoughts about all these stories we talked about today. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and hopefully today's the day I've earned your subscription. Well, last night we finished off the season 2 of the Babylon 5 retrospective, The Coming of Shadows, on Sci-Fi Snobs channel. We will be doing 2 more shows before we start season 3. That will be announced on Sci-Fi Snobs channel. I believe we're going to be doing a look back on season 2. The second half, which is the week of Thanksgiving, is we're going to have a special. He's going to have a special show. Then we'll be there as well. So do check that out. It's 11 p.m. Eastern right here on YouTube. But do check out on December 3rd for the return of the Babylon 5 retrospective. And that is Point of No Return Season 3. So do check it out. Basically, the trailer is out there, which I helped create. So do check it out on there. Also, Top Lofty Lounge, Sunday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. Sci-Fi for Me, do check them out. Go to the site, click on, hit subscribe, so at least you know when he goes live. He's not really steady on when he comes on and off, but it's best thing to do is sign up for it, and you'll know when he airs. So until next time, take this moment to go out and get in some anime, some manga. Treat it like a bottle of fine wine. Look at it. Open it up. Smell it. Taste it. Touch it. And you'll understand what is true artwork. Enjoy your anime and manga. We'll see you on the next video. Next week, this time, Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube and Rumble. Be sure to check out all of our other shows on CutiCast TV, including Madman Cafe Live, Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, on X, YouTube, and Rumble. And, of course, Madman with the Show with daily videos right here as well. So until next time, have a good one. Take in some anime and manga. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for watching, commenting, and sharing this video. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe as this helps the reach of this channel. Finally, as a content viewer, you have the ability to help support this channel as new internet laws around the world will diminish our reach and affect our sponsors. If you choose to help, there are 2 ways, listed in the description below. The first link will lead you to a pay site where you can make a monetary donation. The second will lead you to our gear shop where you can buy shirts, mugs, and other gear. Discounts will be listed on the site. Once again, thank you for watching and your support.